There is a moment in every coaching career where the mask slips, where the carefully rehearsed answers stop working, where the reporters lean forward, the cameras zoom in, and the entire room goes completely silent. Because everyone in that building knows the coach just got caught. That moment happened in Indianapolis, and it was caught on camera. Let me set the scene for you. Double overtime, home floor, a franchise that spent the entire offseason promising its fan base that this was finally the year. And standing at the podium afterward, head coach Stephanie White looked like a woman who had just been asked to explain the unexplainable. Because she had. The Indiana Fever did not simply lose that game. They surrendered. They collapsed. They handed a Washington Mystics team.
Root cause of the problem.
When we don't consistently defend. Again, and this is on us as coaches. Like, this is our responsibility. We got to be disciplined the entire game. We got to be disciplined every possession. We're taking chances. We're fouling shooters who are about to shoot tough shots. We got breakdowns in coverage.
A Washington Mystics team, a highway to the paint so wide you could drive a truck through it. And when the media walked into that press conference room with pointed, specific, completely fair questions about lineup decisions that had been confusing fans for weeks, Stephanie White did something nobody expected. She stonewalled them. Not once, not twice, repeatedly, methodically, deliberately. And here's the part that should make every single Indiana Fever fan's blood run cold. She did not look rattled. She did not look embarrassed. She looked like a coach who has already decided she does not owe you an explanation. That is the crisis. That is the story. And that is exactly what we are unpacking today. Welcome back. If you are new here, this channel does not do fluff. We do not do hot takes for the sake of hot takes. We bring you real analysis, real accountability, and real conversation about the sport we love. So smash that subscribe button, because what we are about to break down is going to change how you see this Fever roster and this coaching staff for the rest of the season. To understand why this press conference was so explosive.
That's our biggest area of growth is everyone wants to go over when they're making shots. And for us, that's our biggest room for improvement right now is when things aren't going well, we still got to be able to defend and, find ways to get stops. And we haven't done that very well to this point, same way we'll.
You have to understand the context building underneath it. This was not a one-game problem. The Indiana Fever have now given up over 100 points in back-to-back home losses. Let that land for a second. On their own floor, in front of their own crowd. With Caitlin Clark, one of the most electric offensive players this league has ever seen. Putting the entire franchise on her back night after night. Clark dropped 32 points in that game. 32. She went to the step back, going left. A shot she had been working on for months. She fought through double teams. She hit shots in overtime that should have closed the door on Washington permanently. She did everything a franchise player is supposed to do, and the defense gave it all back. Every single point. So when reporters walked up to that microphone and asked Stephanie White the obvious question, why are these lineups still producing the same defensive breakdowns we saw 3 games ago? The entire Fever fan base leaned in. This was the moment. This was when the coach was finally going to give a direct answer. Instead, buzzwords, circular logic, and one specific, jaw-dropping moment, where White visibly bristled at the question, paused just a beat too long, and pivoted so hard away from accountability that reporters in the room actually exchanged glances. That moment is the reason this video exists. Because here is what Stephanie White refused to address. And I mean refused, not forgot, not overlooked, refused. There were 3 specific lineup decisions made in the second and third quarters of that game that are borderline indefensible at the professional level. And when pressed on each one, silence, deflection, and then something even more alarming. 3 lineup decisions, 3 different quarters, 3 separate moments where Indiana Fever fans watching at home screamed at their televisions. And after the game, Stephanie White was asked about all 3. The answer she gave, or more accurately, the answer she refused to give, tell you everything about what is broken inside this organization right now. Let's start with the second quarter, because that is where the game was actually lost. Not in overtime, not in the fourth quarter, the second quarter. Washington went on a 14-2 run in an 8-minute stretch, and during that entire run, The Fever never made a single lineup adjustment, not one substitution, not one defensive scheme change. Nothing. The same 5 players who were getting shredded in the paint stayed on the floor, while the Mystics turned Indiana's home arena into a personal highlight reel. When a reporter asked White directly why she didn't make a change during that run, her answer was stunning in its vagueness. She talked about wanting to give her players a chance to work through it. She talked about trusting the group on the floor. She did not mention the fact that her center was being pulled 20 feet from the basket, leaving the entire paint completely unprotected. She did not mention that the Mystics had scouted this exact vulnerability and were exploiting it with surgical precision. And she absolutely did not explain why. In a professional basketball game, a coaching staff that earns millions of dollars collectively could not recognize a 14-2 run as the moment to call timeout and make adjustments. Because here's the reality of high-level basketball that every serious fan understands. You do not let players work through a 14-2 run. You stop it. You disrupt the momentum. You change what is not working. That is the entire job. Diana Taurasi used to say that great coaches make you feel like every timeout is a gift, like something is about to change, like the coach has seen something the defense hasn't. The Fever timeout in that second quarter felt like the opposite. It felt like a coach hoping the problem would solve itself. It didn't. Now, let's talk about the third quarter decision that has the WNBA community absolutely divided. With the Fever down 9 and desperately needing a spark, White made a lineup substitution that left analysts, former players, and fans completely baffled. Instead of going small and fast, instead of unleashing the kind of pace that makes Indiana genuinely dangerous, she went bigger. She doubled down on the exact personnel, grouping that had struggled all game. The result was predictable. Washington's guards had a field day in transition. The Fever's spacing collapsed. And Caitlin Clark, who had been finding rhythm and beginning to take over the game, suddenly found herself operating in a phone booth with nowhere to move. Think about what that means. You have arguably the most dangerous catch-and-shoot player in the modern WNBA, a player who spaces a floor so naturally that defenses have to make impossible choices, a player whose gravity alone creates opportunities for every single teammate around her, and your lineup decision actively destroys that spacing. You are, in effect, putting a cage around your own weapon. Former WNBA players have been vocal about this pattern all season. The question being asked in basketball circles, quietly, then louder, and now loudly, is whether this coaching staff fully understands how to build lineups around Clark's specific skill set, because the evidence on the court is not encouraging. And when pressed about the specific substitution pattern in the post-game presser, White's eyes went somewhere else. Her answer drifted into general principles. She talked about finding combinations. She talked about net efficiency over the course of a game. Beautiful phrases, completely empty of actual content. But here is where the press conference stopped being frustrating and started being genuinely alarming. Because after White finished her carefully constructed non-answer, Caitlin Clark stepped to the microphone. And what Clark said in 30 seconds was more honest, more specific, and more damning than anything her head coach had offered in 15 minutes. Clark did not hide. She did not deflect. She looked straight ahead and said the quiet part loud, that this team has a defensive effort problem that shows up specifically when shots are not falling, that the Fever play connected, engaged, switched on defense when the offense is humming, and the moment the offense goes cold, the defense evaporates with it. That is a cultural diagnosis. That is a player telling you, in public, in front of cameras, that her team has a mental fragility problem on the defensive end that is directly tied to offensive momentum. That is one of the most candid things a young star player has said about her own roster since Breanna Stewart spent years being diplomatically honest about the Liberty's growing pains before they finally assembled a championship-caliber group around her. Clark is showing championship-level self-awareness. She is naming the disease while her coach is still arguing there is no fever. Pun absolutely intended. And the scariest part, the most uncomfortable, unsettling, keeps you up at night part of all of this? The data from the last 6 games suggests this is not a slump. It is not a cold stretch that a hot shooting night will fix. The numbers point to something structural. Something that lineup shuffles alone cannot solve. Something that goes all the way to the top of this organization. And there is one specific statistic from this losing stretch that, when you see it, will make you question everything Indiana's front office told you this offseason about being ready to compete.